So as we had been talking about the verification not being done by a single authority, so it's a kind of a crowd verification or verification by a very scattered pool of Bitcoin users. So let us try to understand that what is this verification process. So for this verification process, there is no central or single authority which does the verification of the transaction. Like in a traditional financial transaction, there is a card company or there is a bank or there is some institution which verifies that a transaction has taken place, and there is a single entry with that particular verifier, and you trust the verifier that your money is safe and you own it, and in case of any dispute, the central authority or that single authority who has verified the transaction will take your side, and if you go to the courts, the court will help you and give the rulings in your favor, and your money is safe. So this is a traditional way of doing financial transactions. But here in the blockchain, there is no central authority or single authority to verify the transaction. So the persons who does the verifications are basically professional verifiers. So they verify, they do this role of verifying on a commercial basis. They make money out of it. So these are the professional who are the verifiers and who verify the transactions. They are also called as Bitcoin miners. Why they are called Bitcoin miners? Because the remuneration which they get for their verification services is in the form of certain amount of bitcoins for certain amount of work. So that's why they are also called as Bitcoin miners. Now, for these professional services, what is the reward to them? So they the professional verifiers who are called miners, as they get rewarded for their trouble in the form of fixed Bitcoin based income for each verification. So this income is called Bitcoin rewards. So what does the Bitcoin system does? It rewards the efforts of these professional verifiers who are called miners, as they get rewarded for their trouble in the form of a fixed Bitcoin based income for a certain amount of verifications. So this income is also called as Bitcoin mining. This process of generating income is also called as Bitcoin mining. And the Bitcoin miners verify these batches of information, which are called blocks. So there is certain numbers of information entries which can reside in a block. So each block contains a fixed number of transactions. And the money, the bitcoins which they get per block is called block reward. So this block reward, what is this block reward? Block reward is the fixed amount of bitcoins which the miners get per block. And each block, as I had already mentioned to you, contains the fixed number of transactions. And and what is blockchain in that case? The blockchain in that case is the chain of these blocks which are added by miners after due verifications. Okay, so the miners keep on getting rewards per block, and these blocks are, after verifications, added to this blockchain, and blockchain keeps growing in size because of the work of these professional miners. So this is basically the process. You can see here that there are professional verifiers, they get reward for their efforts, and then there are blocks which they work upon, and they get a block reward, which is the fixed number of bitcoins per block. And these blocks, which when they get added after verification, forms something called as the giant chain of blocks. And it's keep on growing and growing and growing. So there is a single blockchain for bitcoins, which is very, very big, the size of which currently is of the order of 200 GB, a single file which contains the whole giant list of information in the form of blockchain, and the chain of blocks is 200 GB in size currently. Now let us look at the role of miners. Let's go a little deep into this role of miners so you will understand how this blockchain technology works. It is very, very important to understand. So the main purpose of miners is to create new blocks. So what does the miners do? Miners attach new blocks to the chain, making it longer and longer. As I had already explained to you, that the Bitcoin blockchain has become so long that the single file is almost of the order of 200 GB at present. So it is very clear that the major role of the miner is to add these blocks, new blocks, which are verified. Now, each block is tied to all the blocks before through a mathematical function. So it is a kind of cryptography. The purpose of this cryptography is that the past data is untempered. It can only be untempered if the present block is created only when it is verified that all the earlier blocks are intact, their sanctity is maintained, and using this cryptography mathematical function, any new block which comes, it is tied to the earlier blocks mathematical function in such a way that it is to be ensured that the earlier blocks of the chain are untampered with. So each block is mathematically tied up to the one before it using something called as cryptography. Each block depends on the accuracy of all the blocks before. So need is to ensure each earlier block is uncompromised and untampered with. So it's a kind of cascade. So this block is linked to the earlier block is linked to the block before. So this mathematical function is such that if anybody tries to manipulate or tamper any past record, the new block will not become valid. It will be invalid. It doesn't serve the purpose. So this is the backbone of the blockchain. This cryptography is the backbone of this blockchain. And this is basically the purpose of verification. So if this condition is not met in absolute totality in the new blocks, so it becomes invalid and no block reward will come to the miner. So it will encourage the miners to make sure that the new block is candid, it has got the sanctity, because all the earlier blocks are having the sanctity of it. So this way Bitcoin users are sure that their past transactions are untampered with. So this professional verification of the miners has been designed in such a way that the Bitcoin users have faith in this blockchain, and this blockchain itself actually works as the central authority, or so-called the main authority, official version, which has the sanctity, and whatever is given in that blockchain, which is duly verified by the miners, for which they have been paid, and they have been paid only when they have ensured that all the blocks are having the original information. So to this part, the role of miners is very, very clear. But then there is another area which requires some thinking at this point, is that anybody can do the computation of the past blocks and create a wrong information in the new block. It is possible. So when the new block is being created, while the past blocks remains intact and the sanctity is maintained, what is the guarantee that the new block which is being added will have the correct information? Any fraud can add some transaction which actually never took place. It is possible in that. So for this, what this software of Bitcoin has introduced, and that is another core of the blockchain technology, it has introduced something called proof of work. Now, what is this proof of work? It is very, very important to understand. The Bitcoin software makes it extremely difficult to add new blocks in order to stop fraudster to add fake transactions. If the fraudster want to add fake transactions, they have to go through a very strenuous kind of work, which actually has to be done by the honest and dishonest both. But it's not that anybody can just add the block. So what happens in this game? So hundreds of thousands of miners try to add blocks, but only few succeed, because adding, in spite of that verification process being simple and computation based, so mathematical computation will ensure that the past blocks are having their sanctity maintained. Even after that, when new block is added, it cannot be just added like this only. So they have to give a very strenuous proof of work in which they have to guess a magic number. It is called hash, which has got algorithm, and it is very, very difficult to reach the correct magic number. So what happens? The people who know that after doing all this strenuous work and proof of work, if they introduce any wrong information in the new block, and sooner or later it is going to become invalid, so they will not resort to any fake addition of the blocks. So information which is there in the new block is original in nature, and because the time involved is there is a time gap when they are actually able to add the blocks. So by that time, it is made very, very clear that the information which is there in the new block is original information. In fact, there is another element in this. When this trials are being made to guess the magic number, and so many people are doing it, it becomes very clear if anybody tries to add wrong information, because majority of the people who are trying are adding the same block again and again. So the majority of the people, whatever the block they are adding, it becomes very clear that what is the original information. So if anybody tries to add fake information, it will be easily visible to anybody. Now there is another point to consider here, that there is something called longest chain rule. So what is the final chain of block, which is the template, which is the main template and main giant list or main blockchain? That is the longest verified chain, is the official version of the record of the blocks, and therefore the transactions contained in those blocks. So that becomes the official blockchain, the one which is the longest. And which is the longest? Where somebody has been able to guess the magic number of the so-called hashes, the right hash he has been able to add, and if that condition is met and the block become valid and it gets added, he gets the block reward. So obviously the size of the blockchain becomes large. So whichever is the longest at the given time, that becomes the official chain, and it is copied to all other computers, or it is also called nodes. So people maintain those nodes, which can be full node or which can be partial nodes, because the size of the file is so heavy that not every node will like to maintain the full version of giant chain. So they don't have the wear and withals to maintain the full nodes. So very large companies who get a lot of income from Bitcoin mining, they normally maintain the full nodes. So here one question comes to the mind of everybody who's trying to learn about blockchains, that what is the role of Bitcoin software in these mining operations? It is important to understand. So what is happening is that there is a constant flow of new verified blocks being added to the blockchain, because so many miners are trying their luck. They are doing computation, they are checking and rechecking the old blocks and adding the new block which contains the genuine information. And they are not one, there are many people who know the genuine block, and they are trying to add this block, and they are getting failed every time because they are unable to guess the magic number. So they are hashing all the time. They are putting, they are trying the numbers which is called hashes. So after so many hashes, they get one hash which matches the magic number, and then it gets added. So this constant flow of blocks is taking time and energy and efforts. Now, this time factor is very, very crucial. Let me tell you, if let us assume that only one miner with one computer is doing this guesswork of adding the new block. It is calculated that even if he is working 24 up by 7, it will take 57 years to actually guess that magic number, average. So the odds of getting the magic number is so poor that it will take average 57 years for him to really guess it. So what is happening, that people are pooling the resources, they are pooling the computational powers in such a way, they have reduced this time of guessing to certain minutes, right? So if there are more people, more computers, more computation power, they are probably able to do it in few minutes. If at any given point the less number of people are trying this process, maybe it can take 15 minutes, 20 minutes, maybe hour, 1 hour. So what that software does, it keeps on adjusting the difficulty level of guessing that magic number in such a way that irrespective of how many people are trying to guess the number, it tries to keep the block time. What is block time? The average time taken for one block to be added. It is called block time. So what it is trying to do, it is trying to keep this block time constant at 10 minutes. So if there is very large number of miners who are trying their luck, so it will make it more difficult. Otherwise, what will happen? The block will started getting 2-3 minutes before, maybe in 6 minutes or 7 minutes, which the software doesn't want. So what will do? It will increase the difficulty level, so that even if there is very large number of miners, the time taken, block time taken is not less than 10 minutes. And if there are very few people who are doing it at any given point, so it is possible that they may take hours or more than 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 1 hour, like that, to guess the number in groups. So what the software does, it makes it such that the difficulty level is brought down to a level when it becomes easier for them to guess. So again the block time becomes 10. So that is the role of the software of Bitcoin. So this is how software works, and it tries to maintain this speed of adding one block to the giant chain, blockchain. In every 10 minutes, one block is to be added. So this is basically the role of the Bitcoin software.